Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University, with undergraduate and graduate programs part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. Family conflict is often the stuff of drama, but we'll be talking about it in a little different way. It's the subject of a film showing later this week at the Cinema St. Louis Filmmakers Showcase. It's titled Parallel Chords. The story centers on a domineering father and his sensitive daughter and the issue of one submitting to the will of the other. Joining me to talk about it are Catherine Dudley-Rose. She is the writer-director of the film. Allyson Mace is a co-producer, well-known in St. Louis as the owner and founder of Sauce Magazine. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us. Great to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Great to see you.
Catherine, let me start with you. Would you give us the Cliff Notes version of what the movie is all about? Not too much detail because you want people to see it.
Okay, sure. It's a music-driven drama. Coming-of-age story about a father-daughter relationship. They're both musicians. The father is losing the feeling in his hands and losing the sense of music, and he's becoming very dependent on his daughter to keep that alive. She would like to explore other things other than the narrow field of classical music. However, she feels torn and knows that might hurt her father. So she's dealing with that push and pull.
I'm told that it's a true story and that it might be your true story, in a sense, at least.
It's loosely autobiographical, I like to say, in that my father was a classical concert pianist. He was the inaugural performer for A.V. Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center. And I did grow up performing with him regularly. And, it's a pretty unique bond when you're practicing with your father from a young age every single night. I tallied up the hours of that. It's pretty crazy. Thousands and thousands of hours with someone making music,
Sure. Well, writing the story and then making the film had to unleash certain emotions in you, I would think.
Yeah. So I did pursue acting and a lot of other creative things, but I had this story in me. Like I felt that I just had to kind of get it out really quickly. I mean, this was many years ago. So I was already writing other things and acting and directing in New York. And when it came time that it was just like, it was right. Like I knew, okay, I think I'm ready. I can write this now. It first came out fairly quickly, but then it's been a long journey to finally get it on the big screen.
Sure. It always is when you're making films. Allyson, I have to confess that I was surprised to see that you had an involvement in the film. How did that come to be?
Well, I was approached by another member of the crew, and she was telling me about the project, and it was absolutely fascinating to me, and I said I really wanted to meet Catherine and see if there was something that I could do to help. We hit it off immediately when we met, and I loved the story, and I really wanted to see it happen in St. Louis. I didn't want it to be taken out of St. Louis. I thought St. Louis was the perfect backdrop, and me, I'm going to be a big supporter of St. Louis any way I can, even when it comes to production of a feature film. So that's kind of how we started this.
So what is the role of the co-producer?
Well, I think the buck stops here. Is kind of where I see that. I've never done anything like this before, but it was invigorating to learn the world of film and watch and run a crew of 30 with Catherine. It was one of the most interesting things I've ever done, and it was a really great outlet for my creativity and the natural skill of producing, because, I produce a lot of things, not only from events, but obviously monthly, the Sauce Magazine. So it just gave me another opportunity to stretch my wings in a production level that I've not done before.
And I was so glad she did.
I was going to say, Catherine, what does someone like Allyson, I think there were 4 co-producers, if I'm...
Yeah, so there's different kinds of producers, and so I'm a producer by necessity in terms of I did a lot of the just pre-production work and kind of getting everybody on board, whether that's actors or cinematographers, editors, locations, everything that I could do to kind of like get us set and say, yes, we can do this. And then I was so very fortunate to meet Allyson, and then obviously I can't do any of that sort of thing while on set. So I felt really supported having her there, and there are other producers that you may see, like executive producer. Those people are more financial assistants, and some of that came from when I did the short film. People saw it and came up to me afterwards and said, because I put in the short film based on a feature-length screenplay. So there was a number of people that helped us out financially that get producer credit. And then associate producer, those are people that maybe they secured a very substantial location or something like that. We were really lucky to have Webster University for the music school. That was pretty fantastic. Yeah,
let's talk for a moment about the St. Louis connection or connections, because aside from shooting here, there are other connections as well.
Yeah, it's, I feel the same way as Allyson in terms of I really wanted to film here. To be honest with you, a lot of people did not want me to film here because, it's very challenging. But we have this beautiful city, and Allyson was able to help us get the Fox Theater. And as I mentioned, Webster University. When I was in New York, I worked with a really good producer that said, how you start a project is you define the first day of shooting. You just say, I'm going to shoot on this day, and then you just don't give up. And so I had already picked my day of filming, October 17th, and it was getting closer and closer, and we really needed the college, and we didn't have it yet. And then I saw the music school, and it turned out they had their break, and it started October 17th. So that was like, okay, we really have to stay here and shoot this here. And also there's a lot of, as you know, there are a lot of musicians in the film. Daniel Sheen, who plays the humble role of being the piano extra. He's our piano double, but he's an amazing pianist, and he allowed us to use his home as well. So we had a house with 2 grand pianos, a fantastic pianist playing the hands of, the main character, the father.
I wanted to ask about that, but Rachel Ann, is that the name of the young lady? She plays?
Yes, so she does not actually, but
really? I thought she did.
She does not, but she before we did the short, I gave her a number of lessons, and I still teach violin and piano, so I'm pretty aware of form and what we would need to see and what is doable and what is not doable. So even when we did the short, I would pick specific passages that I knew the actor could do this, and then we can cut to the real person, the real musician, and never give the actor something that would not work for them. So Rachel, all of the things that we see her do, she's doing some of it, but also we have Erin Schreiber, who is, in the St. Louis Symphony, and so she's our violinist double as well.
Well, I thought I had read that Rachel was a musician herself, but I guess
she is a wonderful singer, and she plays guitar too, and she went to the American Musical Academy, and she's very musical. She's not necessarily a violinist. But
it's got to be very difficult to shoot, though, under these conditions where you're cutting from the face and the fingers and all the rest of it.
Yes, this is one of the biggest challenges that people don't realize, and if we did a poor job, they would realize, but if we do the right job, they think that the actors are playing. And I'm fortunate enough that I had done a number of films where I was hired as a musician, but, you're doing it perfectly and correctly, but you're not even using that. You're using recordings, and there's a lot of different layers. There's some filmmakers who have been around for a long time that don't even know how you put all this together because it is very complicated. It's like an action scene only with, fingers and notes.
Allyson, you mentioned a couple of moments ago your own involvement in the creative process in a somewhat different way with the magazine and some of the other events that you do. What did you learn from this process that you might be able to apply to what you do in your various areas?
Patience, for sure. And it's a lot of critical thinking on the fly. And, when you're dealing with so many variables and you're on a tight timeline and just one little thing can throw things so far out of whack, being prepared and having a really great team underneath you that are just as passionate as the story and the topic. It was just one of those things that it's invigorating to see the amount of work and passion all coming together at the same time. And I think that was my most favorite thing about producing the film with Catherine. It was an experience that I could never ever replace.
Is it something you'd like to do again, do you think?
Absolutely. I would totally go down that rabbit hole again.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion here in St. Louis and in Missouri over the years about bringing more film work into this area. For some reason, it was more popular at one time than it is now. I wonder if a project like this might just light the fire to get this thing going again. What do you think?
It definitely should, because the amount of talent that is in this city is extraordinary, and the fact that they have a lot of the talent has to leave town to pursue a career, it's sad to me. So I think that we need to find a way to increase the favoritism towards feature film production in St. Louis, because it's such a beautiful backdrop, and a lot of stories are based out of St. Louis, real stories that need to be told, but then they're shot in Birmingham, Georgia, or somewhere outside of the state of Missouri, and that's a problem.
And it's probably a lot less expensive to shoot here than it would be in a number of places I could think of.
It's true. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was lucky enough that we had people who have very strong St. Louis roots that, like Allyson said, have to leave, so they're in Los Angeles, but they really wanted to come back here. And I just kept thinking, gosh, how cool would it be if I could wake up every day and film here and not have to go off and do it? I did the short elsewhere. But it is challenging. It is less expensive, but it's still as hard as you might think. For my script, there are like 24 pages of house and 24 pages of college. And honestly, if we did not have those things, I don't see how we could have shot here. But luckily, we found them.
There is a tax credit issue that used to be
very big tax credit issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it something that affected you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I even had people say, "Well, can't you just go over the river?" I mean, there was a lot of other places that I was being coaxed to come to, and I am a person who I've already done my leaving. I lived in New York for almost 20 years, and I moved here. So I'm not looking to leave to find better pastures. I'm looking to create a better pasture here for film and music and creativity and everything. So, and I think there's a wealth of people here to pull from. I do see a problem in terms of everybody is very separate in their own little thing, and I'd love to be able to take a film and cross over the arts and the film world a little bit more, which is something that surprisingly enough is not it's not typical here. Yeah.
A couple of other things I want to get to with regard to the reduction, but I'd like to have a clip played also.
Oh, sure.
Why don't you set this up? Because it includes one of my favorite lines from the movie. We can talk about that when it's finished. But this is the young Rachel Ann in a situation with a young man she's just met. Set it up from there.
Yes, that's a great line. She really wants to do things other than the classical music. She's very late for an important rehearsal, and she's just kind of snuck in an audition for a play that she's been wanting to do since high school, and she has another opportunity to do it again. And so she's on her way to do that, and this fellow who she just barely met is questioning her about the play.
Hey, don't forget this.
Oh.
Gonna be in a play, huh?
No. I won't get the part. Even if I don't think I can.
Stage fright.
It's not that. Even if I wanted to, I don't see how. It was neat to audition, though. It would make a lot of people upset, I think.
I don't follow.
I don't think my dad would like it.
So?
It would make him very upset.
So?
My life is set. Wear black and play the music of dead men. I gotta go.
Well, a couple of hints there. Number one, you get some sense of what the relationship is with the father, which is just fraught throughout the film. And the line, I dress in black and play the music of dead men, is killer.
Thank you. It's definitely one of my favorite lines, and I think everybody likes to walk around saying that's worked on the film.
Another element of this that I wondered about is the fact that this was at one time was a one-person play. It was, a 14-minute? You mentioned the short movie. It was a 14-minute short early on?
Well, you've revealed more than most people. This is you're kind of combining some interesting things. The short film was 14 minutes, and it was not a solo performance piece or anything like that. There was the same father and daughter, Bjorn and Rachel. They were in the short as well, and we had another important character. But what you are referring to is as the one-person show, since I am an actor as well, I did do a solo performance piece in New York City on Theater Row, and I played my father and my mother and my violin and my brother. I played, all the characters, and everybody afterwards said, "Oh, you should tour with this as a one-person show." And it was kind of around the time when Spalding Gray and a lot of people were doing one-person shows, and I thought, oh my gosh, emotionally, there's no way I could do that. But that was one thing, and many, many, many years later did I even consider writing a screenplay about the film. I mean, about the story,
The film, Parallel Chords, runs almost an hour and 40 minutes. A pretty 98 minutes or
Yes.
something like that. And how do you take a 14-minute short and multiply it by 10?
That's a good point. So actually, I wrote the feature-length screenplay first. I wrote that when I was still in New York, and I was working with a lot of pretty wonderful people that now have some great careers with this theater company, and a lot of them were established writers, older than me, and I had already been writing for the company and directing and acting, and I just sort of passed this thing out to established writers, and I was just looking for feedback. I wasn't really looking for much more, and it turned into kind of a big deal. It got some traction. I had it optioned more than once, and a lot of people just kind of gravitated to the script, but there are some dicey things in it, and I don't know that there were that many women lead roles then. I also had originally thought I would play the role, so this is, so it was this full-length thing. And like I said, it didn't get made at that time, but it got some traction. I was able to get commissioned to write 3 other scripts because of it. And then, put it on the shelf for a while and moved here for love. And then I thought, okay, I don't have the money for the feature, but let's see how I can make a short. So I kind of had to go circuitously around to get back to making a small thing first.
Allyson, why don't you tell me something about the cast and working with actors? What was that like for you?
Oh, I love they're so unique, and watching them, transform into the characters was fascinating to me. I mean, and the way they worked with Catherine and how you both worked together, and they would rise to the occasion, depending on how dramatic the scene was at the time. But I really loved that meeting the personalities behind all of them and getting to know them as real people, and then watching the transformation come through in the characters.
I thought the cast was excellent. I mean,
Thank
for
you.
a relatively small production, that they were all outstanding, and I'm sure, Allyson, you found that to be the case as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough that I had acted with Rachel before, so I many years ago. So I had kind of my eye on her for
many years ago. She only looks like she's 17 years old.
Well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good that she
good.
looks that young.
Yeah, and Bjorn, I've forgotten his last name.
Yes,
Played
Bjorn
the father.
Johnson.
He's excellent.
Yes, he is totally excellent. He has been in a lot of major things: Mad Men, Sopranos. I don't know, Dexter, everything that you've probably seen on TV. I found him through my New York connections, and yeah.
And you say they were in the both of them were in the short as well.
Yes.
But they certainly aged between the time you did the short and this production.
Yeah. It's funny. I think since we had it out on the festival circuit in 2015 and 16, and we were already starting to shoot the feature in 2016, it's kind of been this very natural evolution. I mean, yes, Rachel she's actually only a few years older than when we did the short. So, yeah, she's got that young face, and Bjorn, he's looking fit as a fiddle. I had to kind of make him look much older.
Sometimes that happens naturally.
Oh, and then Laura is brilliant. I should mention Laura too, because she's a really wonderful, established Kansas City actress who's been in Cannes, and she is super awesome. And my little girl is pretty great too.
Well, folks are going to have the opportunity to see that at 7 p.m. this Friday at the Brown Hall Auditorium at Washington University as part of this year's Filmmakers Showcase. What happens then?
The
I mean, after that, we know what happens then.
The reoccurring line, "We shall rest" in the film?
I'm sorry?
The reoccurring line, "We shall rest"?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. No. Hopefully more. We're going to show it in Massachusetts the following week. It's been selected as a part of the 27th Annual Woods Hole Film Festival, and following that will be a Film Festival of Columbus, and we'll keep you posted on it. Just going to keep screening in different festivals, and yeah. And
there have been some awards along the way as well.
There's definitely been some awards.
Yeah. And what are they? Just give us a sense of that.
So the awards are actually for the short, because the feature we just finished not that long ago. Yeah.
Well, I have to say that I enjoyed the film. I watched it over the weekend. I think people will as well at 7 o'clock Friday at Washington University. I want to thank you both. Allyson Mace, thank you for being with us, and we'll watch for your next film project as well.
Thank you so much.
Catherine, thank you so much for being with us. Best of luck to you with Parallel Chords.
Thank you so much.
That's right.
Thanks, Don.
That's going to be shown once again. I'll remind everyone at 7 o'clock this Friday at Brown Hall Auditorium at Washington University. Podcast episodes of St. Louis on the Air are available at stlpublicradio.org, or you can subscribe for free on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts. St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Don Marsh.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.